Good morning. Today we're going to see properties of equality. Properties of equality are the properties that justify, that gives a reason of the steps that we are doing when we solve an equation. You have used them, and today we are just going to figure out which property is being used in each of the cases that you have in boxes. Equality means same, equal. So they keep the equation balanced. The properties of equality are the addition property of equality, the subtraction property of equality, the multiplication property of equality, the division property of equality, and the distributive property. In your worksheet, you have some problems in boxes like this. So this is number 1. You have an equation and the steps that they use to solve it. And over here, we need to write what property was used, what property justified what was done there. So today you do not need a calculator. For problem number 1, and for all the problems that you have in your worksheet, the first equation that is given hasn't used any property. It's just given to you. It's written. So you can write in all of the problems the word given. We haven't done any work with it yet. So the given is the step number 1 in all of them. Let's see the step number 2. What did they do? Okay, I see a 2x. It means that they multiply the 2 and the x inside the parentheses. And then they multiply the 2 and the 9. And they put the symbol. What property is that? That's the distributive property. So over here in number 2, what they used was the distributive property. Let's go to step number 3. What did they use? Now I see that the 2 x's are written here, but then the negative 18 has disappeared. What did they do with the negative 18? Okay, in order to get rid of the negative 18, they must have added a positive 18 on both sides. And that's why they got rid of this. And then minus 10 plus 18 gave them 8. So if they put a plus 18, the property is the addition. They use the addition property of equality. They put plus on both sides. So that in the third step, they use the addition property of equality. Step number 4. Now I have the x by itself. They got rid of this 2. The 2, since there is no symbol in between, is multiplying the x. And if they got rid of the 2, it means that they divided into both sides. That way, they cancel this, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So, since they did division, the property that they used was the division property of equality. Let's write it here. And that's how you're going to fill in your boxes. Let's look at one more example. I pick number 7 because one of the steps do not use a property, but it has a reason. And if you notice in your box, you have here is the equation or the steps, and then you have the properties or the reasons. So number 7 in your worksheet. What's the property in number 1? Number 1 is always given. That's the equation that is given to you. So we write the word given in number 1. Let's see what happened in number 2. Okay, we have the 14 here, but then I have negative 2x. Where did that negative 2x came from? I should use a different marker. So they must have, there is a multiplication. They must have multiplied the 2 times x, which is 2x. And then they multiply the negative 2 times 8. And that's why they got the 16 there. It means that they use the distributive property. Let's see if they do something else on the other side. They put the 5x here, and they took out the parentheses. How did they do that? Since it's parentheses, they multiply just the symbol. Negative times positive is negative, and negative times negative is positive. Minus 3x plus 34. So they did distribution on both sides. They use the distributive property. Let's write it over here. Distributive. Let's see what happened in step number 3. What did they do here? I see that the 14 is no longer here, but the 2x is here, the negative 2x. Now what happened with the 14? They must have combined this 14 and this negative 15 because they are like terms, right? 14 minus 16 is minus 2. So they combine these two terms that are alike. Did they do something on the other side? Yes. 5x minus 3x is no longer there. I only have 2 x's. It means that they combined these 5 x's and these negative 3 x's, and that gave them 2 x's. You have 5 x's and you take away 3 x's, you are left with 2 x's. And then they copy the 34. So what they do in step number 3 is that they combine. There is no property here. There is a reason. They combine like terms. And that's the reason I chose that. This number 7. Okay, step number 4. What happened here? How did it came from this to this? How did they make that jump? What property did they use? Okay, here is negative 2 x's, and now I have negative 4 x's. So they added another 2 negative. But I don't see x's after the equal. It means that they moved the variables. They moved the letter from the right to the left. And to move it or to get rid of it, they must have subtracted 2 x's. Because you had 2 x's positive, if you subtract them, you get 0. And they must do the same on both sides, right? It's equality. That way these 2 x's got cancelled, and minus 2x is minus 4x. So they did a subtraction there. I see that negative 2 is here and the 34 is here. They use the subtraction property of equality. They subtracted on both sides the same amount. So number 4 is the property of subtraction. The subtraction property of equality. Number 5. Let's see what happened in number 5. Okay, the minus 4x are still there. The 2, they got rid of these 2. How can they undo the negative 2? They isolated the variable. So, in order to get rid of that, they must do the inverse operation. The inverse of negative 2 is they must have added 2 to make it 0, and they should have done that on both sides. That way these 2 cancel each other, and 34 plus 2 is 36. So they used the property of addition, the addition property of equality. And the last step, okay, I see that the x is by itself. It means that the negative 4 must have been gone somewhere. Since the negative 4 is multiplying the x, because there is no symbol in between, the inverse of multiplication, to undo it, the minus 4, is division. They divided by the same number, minus 4, both sides. Equality. Keep the balance of the equation. That way these 2 cancel each other. We are left with the x, and 36 divided by negative 4. This is wrong. It's negative 9, right? So they did division. They used the division property of equality. Okay, now you go ahead and work on your worksheet. I hope you have fun and you have a break from your calculator. Just figure out which property was used. Look at the equation. The first one is always given. And from there on, you figure out which property was used or reason. Have a good day.